What's up, guys? Welcome to Soul Tracks. This was for the finest niggas in music right here on YouTube. Drop a comment and like below if you mess with the movement, and if you don't, you already know you can get the fuck on. So this year has been crazy musically. There's been so many big artists dropping, most likely due to the fact that all of 2020 we were dealing with the panorama, and a lot of artists didn't want to drop because there was no way to perform the new music. And while 2020 still was a decent year for music, 2021 has been miles ahead in my opinion. We've got so many big drops from big artists, and with concert venues opening up, festivals are back on. We got so much more music to vibe to and just a different array of things, and I'm very appreciative for it. But now it's the end of the year. It's all over. We're done. And yet we're still in a pandemonium. But as 2022 rolls around, I have accumulated favorite albums of the year. And today we're going to be focusing on R&B. I have a lot of different tastes. I listen to a lot of different things, but I think hip hop and R&B are like the staples in my life, and I think I will listen to those two genres probably the most out of anything. And this year definitely did not come up short on the R&B side. I mean, I got so many things that I put on this list that I had to take off, put back on, things that I forgot about. So I just kind of didn't number the R&B list, and I'm just gonna give you guys a collection of my favorite R&B albums of this year. And the purpose of this video isn't to rank these albums and tell you what the best album is, because my opinion is worth so much. This is really just to show my appreciation for these albums and hopefully put you guys on to something new, and maybe you can put me on to something new. And before we start it off, I would really appreciate it if you guys go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're messing with the video, if you're liking the way my facial hair looks, if you're liking my shirt, subscribe. You know, drop a comment, let me know what you guys are thinking before you even watch it, and just subscribe, man. You know, we're in this for the long haul. Let me know if you mess with the movement. But anyways, let me get on to the music. So first off, I think I'm gonna start off with some honorable mentions. Things that I didn't quite listen to that much, or I thought was good, but I don't know if I would go back to it, but I still wanted to show some appreciation. Or even things that just haven't grown on me that much yet, but I do have a lot of songs that I like. First off on the honorable mentions list is Erykah de Cassier. I hope I'm saying that right, but this is an album titled Sensational, and I just got hip to this, but I'm really liking the sleek and low-key vibe of this thing. Erykah's voice kind of just glides over these really like eerie and dark, smooth beats going on here. It's a very interesting vibe, and I think you guys should really check it out. It's some breakup vibes going on, so if you're going through that type of thing, you know, this might be for you. Next up is Eric Bellinger, The Light. Eric Bellinger is a staple in the R&B community, and he has a lot of hardcore fans out there, and I think that he puts out quality music every year, and he puts out a lot of music too. And The Light is nothing different. It has some nice features from The Game and others on there. And I think that his ability to just create catchy songs with good melodies, nice harmonies, and some great beats, this guy's got it all, you know? So if you don't know who Eric Bellinger is, I think that you'll like him if you're into like a Chris Brown, her, or even just like, you know, modern trap soul music. Next up, I have Jawan with The Light. Now this is another album that I just got hip to probably a couple months ago, but it's only 5 or 6 songs, I believe. But man, this is some really nice, soft and sensual R&B music on Jawan's side. His singing, vocal talent is very nice, and I think the production on here is nice, laid back and lush, and it's just a really good vibe here. And I think that he can be something in this world. It's kind of giving me like a Alex Isley vibe. So if you're into something that you just want to chill with, kind of lay back, and even if you want to get down and just close your eyes and listen to it, I think this is a beautiful, nice little EP to start off with. And last but not least, on my honorable mentions list, I have Loonie, Soft Thing. This is an 8-track project, and I think that it has a lot of good potential on it. It's not something that I listen to a lot, but the couple times that I did, I was really some nice groovy tunes on here. She's got a track Mick Jenkins on there, and he has a nice verse on there. So I think that this is one that you guys should definitely check out, and I think I'll like it even more with more listens. So the first album on my favorite R&B projects of 2021, we're coming in with Tenache, 333. Before this album, I was loosely familiar with Tenache, most likely from tracks like 2 On, which I think is her biggest track, and a couple other songs. But it seems like she wasn't getting the recognition she deserves. I mean, she really does the full package. She can sing, she can put on a nice performance, dance, and I think she does a little production. But I think Tenache deserves a little bit more respect in the game. I mean, she's been doing this for a little while now. And 333 is a really nice diversion from what I've known her to be. And it really surprised me with how diverse it is stylistically. I really like that she explores that alt pop sound, and even the more traditional R&B songs have such good melodies and beats to them. So there's a lot of good meat on here that I think you should check out. If you want to listen to a song straight off the bat, I recommend Absolutely, or the first track is a really nice intro to the thing. Next up, we have Ascent with Minus the Bullshit, Life's Great. Really, this thing is just super vibe. It's really just a collection of some low-key R&B with some hip-hop inspired beats on them. And he brings on a lot of features on here because Ascent is a producer. So he brings on a lot of guests and nice R&B features on here. This just puts on that nice mood and gives you a nice collection of R&B songs to just vibe out and chill with. There's a really good song on here that features Duckworth and Saba. And I think there's another song on here featuring Hamza. So if you're gonna check this out, I recommend those 2 songs. But yeah, if you want something to just vibe to, play on the ride home, do some homework to, clean the house to, I think this is the perfect album for that. Number 16 on the list is Pink Panthers with To Hell With It. So I'm pretty sure that you guys have heard this somewhere on the internet. I mean, a couple of songs on here have blown up on TikTok. So I think that definitely helped push her name out there. But it's for good reason. I mean, she does have some really quality and interesting, intriguing musical style. Panthers' debut album is a really refreshing drop into the R&B world. She's really taken this sound into alternative pop or dance pop. I don't really know what to specifically call this genre, but I think she's really taken it and made it her own. I mean, I really like the robotic, almost really auto-tuned sounding vocals on here, and the beats on this thing are just really upbeat and poppy, and it brings on some nice synths and just all around a really nice soundscape from Pink Panthers. And I always love the artist or the vocalist can also do a lot of production on their own work, so I really respect that in that sense also. If I'm going to recommend a song off of this thing, I would recommend I Must Apologize. It's a super bop. Just do that, okay? Number 15 on the list, we have Latonya Alberto with The Royal Escape. Now, I did not know who Latonya Alberto was before this year, but I am glad that I listened to pretty much anything with a mildly interesting cover art, because if I didn't, I would have never found this gem. Latonya Alberto is an Amsterdam-based singer. With this album, she displays her lush vocals over top some really nice neo-soul production. And the thing that I like about this album really is the lyricism. She has some really great wordplay, and I think that she deserves a lot of respect on that part. And she just has a really unrelenting attitude towards her own self-care, and you can tell through the lyricism on this thing. So I really do appreciate that. I mean, sometimes it almost sounds like she's kind of rapping or spitting a verse over top of these tracks sometimes. But the overall production of this thing is really great. It's nice, smooth tracks on here, and I think this is a really good listen. Number 14 on the list, India Shawn, Before We Go. Yeah, this was a good one. It's some really groovy vibes on here. Has some features from Anderson .Paak, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, and Black on here. And I think all 3 of those tracks are really the highlight of this thing. And India Shawn gives some nice, soft, sultry vocals on here. And I think it all in all just has a great vibe to it. And I think that India Shawn deserves a little more recognition. I mean, she's really given the full package here. It's a lot of nice bass grooves on here. If you want to, have a little R&B party, or, if you want to, the bedroom vibes, you want to get the bedroom vibes right, you can turn on that song featuring Black, and I'm pretty sure that'll do the thing for you. So yeah, this is a really nice one. Only like 8 tracks on here, but I mean, it's 8 tracks of quality, trust me. Number 13 on the list is Rochelle Jordan, play with the changes. I'm not gonna lie, I was just put onto this artist maybe 3 days ago. But after I listened the first time, I listened the second time, and then I listened the third time, and you know the rest. This is fire. I really enjoy the different sound on here. If I had to describe it, it's like if Solange met dance pop. Rochelle is just vibing on this thing to some really hard hitting beats on here. So you can expect this thing to give you a lot of energy. The beat on the first track, Love You Good, is just pretty much indicative of how the rest of the album is going to be. So yeah, this thing is definitely like fist pump evoking almost, but it does have some tracks that are more like, you know, the modern trap soul sound, but I think Rochelle just puts her own flavor on it, and I really like that about this album. And while she does experiment with these new sounds and sounds more futuristic, it also does have a nostalgic feeling how she layers her melodies. Kind of gives you like that 90s vibe. So I think that if you want, you know, a mix of electronic pop and R&B music, it's gonna hit hard and, you know, really like give you that energy, I think that this is the one for you. Number 12 on the list is gonna be Terrace Martin with his new album, Drones. At this point in his career, anything he puts out is pretty much gold. I mean, this guy has a track record with guys like Kendrick Lamar, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, a lot of West Coast legends, and a lot of jazz legends like Robert Glasper, and even producers like Ninth Wonder. So I think that this guy, he kind of speaks for himself at this point. He's almost like a vet in the game. Terrace Martin is a multi-instrumentalist specializing in jazz, but also gives a hip hop and R&B fusion to his songs. And I love that he always brings that West Coast flavor to his production. And that's no different here on Drones. I mean, he gives some nice, really layered R&B tracks here. I really like the theme of drones he had on here. Some of these tracks kind of have just like that robotic vibe going on, like the song featuring Trust, and the title track Drones, which features vocals from Kendrick Lamar, Ty Dolla $ign, and James Fauntleroy, and even verses from Snoop Dogg. So I think that this one definitely has a lot to give. It gives you some really punchy R&B tracks like This Morning featuring R&Ray and Smino, and it even gives you those tracks with just like good bars and good beats like Evil Eyes featuring YG and Malaya. So instrumentally, there's just so many groovy spots on here with just great production, but he also does give some straight up jazz cuts on here with features from Robert Glasper. So I think that this is one of the more well-rounded albums of this year, and not just R&B but in general. So I think that if you're looking for something with some great well-rounded production, jazz infused R&B, I think this is where you want to be at, Terrace Martin. And don't be scared to dive into his older stuff too, because it's all fire. It's all fire. Number 11 on the top R&B albums list is going to be Her with Back of My Mind. Kind of crazy to think that this is Her's debut album, especially given how much traction she has in the music industry. I mean, she has some really big songs. So, you know, to say that this is her debut album in 2021 sounds kind of crazy to me. But here we are. I mean, the first thing that I noticed about this album is that it's not the most energetic album. It's not going to give you, you know, those club hits or club bangers. This is a very laid back album, but within a very chill album. There's so much quality, just good bones on this thing altogether. Her vocals are like butter over these tracks. And speaking of tracks, there's a lot of them. It's like 18 or 20 songs on here. So, you know, this thing could really ride out like a playlist because it does give you a decent variety with how many songs are on here. You got songs like Damage and Come Through that are kind of just like that nostalgic classic R&B. And you got tracks like Bloody Waters and Don't, which has some nice live instrumentation to it. And I think her vocals sound really good, and you can really see how good her vocal talent is over these tracks with live instrumentation. At this point in her career, I can really appreciate her ability to just create songs that are catchy, have catchy hooks, great melodies. And I mean, that's really her specialty at this point. Usually I don't gravitate towards a more commercial artist that's gonna get a lot of radio play, but her somehow does that, gets the radio play, and still you can go back to the song a million times and never get tired of it. I mean, I don't know how many times I listened to Damage this year. So If you want some quality R&B that you can listen to the whole way ride home or on a long ride, I think this is it. Some chill vibes, some bedroom vibes, and even a couple of hip hop inspired tracks like the track with Lil Baby. So there's some good diversity on here, and I think that this has a lot of replay value on it, which is why it's number 11 on my list. Next up, we have Jawan with Absolutely. Guys, let me tell you something real quick, okay? This is fire, and I just got hip to this not too long ago, but this is fire. Jawan brings a lot of just raw passion and energy all over this album, and he's crooning his way through this disjointed production. So at first glance or first listen, it might sound a little all over the place, but I think there's a lot of beauty in that madness. And I think it kind of reflects on Jawan's personality. He seems like a really energetic, passionate guy. And I think it reflects whatever he was going through when he was writing these songs. So you can definitely hear that on the production side. You get some slow burning tracks on here like Annie. You even get a straight up like dance pop track on here with The Dress, but it's really, really, really good. Probably one of the more tasteful, like just straight up pop songs I've really heard in a long time. That chorus on there is just like butter. One of my favorites on here is Many Times, which just gives you that energy. I really just love like the folk rock inspiration on here. Everything just sounds so warm and groovy. So I think this album really, really, really gives you a lot of diversity, and it's a really different listen. It really sounds nothing like any other R&B album that I had on here. So I think that it just really does a good job of keeping itself interesting and just delivering and conveying that raw passion that Jawan was feeling on here. And I think what really, really, really made me like this album a lot more is that before I even listened to the album, I found this guy through his live performance of the album on YouTube. If you want a better picture of this guy, I would definitely check out his live performance. It definitely shows you how much passion and just like raw energy is in this thing. Next on the list is gonna be Mac Ayers with 8 Ball. Bass grooves and buttery vocals. That's what's here. It's really not that much to say about this thing other than Mac Ayers knows what he's doing. He's giving you that quality, low-key, but hard-hitting R&B here, and I'm all here for it, man. It's just some really good laid-back R&B with some great bass lines, some very, very, very catchy hooks, and some great vocals on here too, man. So if you just want that warm, groovy R&B, here it is. Coming up on the list, we got Lucky Daye with Table for Two. Lucky Daye, to me, is like Trey Young. Shooter. He's putting up numbers wherever he goes. He's almost there to where he's seen as like a super mega star. But I think this guy has got it. He's got that talent almost like her where he can just deliver a great hook and just create a really, really, really catchy song. And I think this guy really has a great ear for some modern R&B beats also. And it's really just some premier R&B throughout this whole thing, in my opinion. He does a really good job of just having great chemistry along with his guests. Even though they kind of steal the show a little bit, I think that it still does a great job of just delivering some great R&B. Next up on the list, we got Summer Walker with Still Over It. If you're an R&B lover like me, you know that this album pretty much has to be on here. It should be on any top R&B albums list of 2021. Summer Walker. Summer doubled back on her recent failure-rationship with London on the Track by basically smearing his name on every track on here. It's an album dedicated to his failures. But I feel like the added context on here just makes every song so much more potent. But aside from the Shade Room specials on here, Summer really does a great job of putting emphasis on her background vocals and the actual musicality of this album. It kind of elevates itself from just that traditional trap soul R&B, and it gives it a little bit more edge, which I really love. And I love that it brings some of those classic neo-soul instrumentals like the song Unloyal with Ari Lennox. And I even love those just like those minimal tracks with just her vocals and kind of like a guitar like You Don't Know Me. I think that was really nice, soft track where the lyrics kind of just pitchier. I feel like this album is her best project yet, and I think that she still has a lot of potential. And shout out to Sean Garrett on this thing. He did a lot of co-production, background vocals, and writing on this album, and I think that definitely helped it elevate the level of this album, given that Sean Garrett has, you know, a really good track record. So yeah, Summer Walker's Still Over It, definitely one of the best albums of this year. Production's great, vocals sound heavenly, and the lyrics are just cutting, you know. Sometimes she just like really taking this guy's head off, and sometimes, you know, she even doubles back and, you know, wishes that things were different. So I really appreciate all sides of this album. And now we've entered into the top 5, and with number 5 we've got Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels. Hotels dropped very early in the year, and it still managed to be one of the best R&B albums and best albums of 2021. Jasmine brings her very powerful, amazing vocals throughout this whole album, detailing her struggles and trials and tribulations through her personal failed relationship and her own womanhood. At times it feels like she's done with the games with Pick Up Your Feelings, and sometimes she wanders back into the lust on tracks like On It and Put It Down. But I think this EP does a great job of just conveying a strong message while also keeping the emphasis on the musicality of this thing. I think that her showcasing the different tales from these different women on these interludes really shows, you know, what different women go through and the different emotions and feelings go into relationships. Tracks like Lost Ones and Girls Like Me really display her emotions, and you can really feel throughout her vocals. There's a lot of variety in the production. You got neo soul cuts, you got that modern R&B kind of trap soul cuts, and you even got songs that are just like straight up guitar ballads on here like Lost Ones. So I think if you want some really premier R&B, premier vocals, this is where you need to be at. Really fun listen, I mean, and I love that this thing didn't take itself too seriously. I mean, you got a hilarious verse from Anderson .Paak on Price Tag. I think that Put It Down had a nice like playful vibe to it. So I think that Jasmine really just did a great job at conveying her message on here, and I really love the execution. So yeah, Jasmine Sullivan, Hotels, yeah, go check that out, please. Number 4 on the list, we have James Blake with Friends That Break Your Heart. James Blake has been killing it on the scene since he first came in the game in like 2011. From that point, he's always brought an eerie R&B vibe with an electric fusion twist on it, and I think that Friends That Break Your Heart is another example of that. But this time brings around a strong theme on here rather than another collection of songs. I love that this album details James's heartbreak, and usually when you think of heartbreak, you think of something from a romantic relationship causing that, but this is dealing from something platonic, and I think that's an aspect that's not really covered in the R&B world like that. He mourns his losses through crooning through these like really somberful tracks, and I just really have a thing for artists that can convey their emotions through their music really well, and you can really hear it through the vocals, again, just like Jasmine Sullivan's album. The chorus on Life Is Not the Same really makes you feel every word that he's saying. And Say What You Will is a low-key but really powerful track that really displays James' vocal talent on here, and I think his voice is really distinct. He's always been able to bring hip-hop inspiration into his music also. I mean, he's got features on here from JID, Suave, and even the track like I'm So Blessed You're Mine has this like electric hip-hop sound to it, which I think is really fucking cool, and even production from people like A10. So I think if you're looking for something with some super good production, super pristine quality, I think that this is the one for you. It's got a lot of different variety on here, and I think that it's just a really great listen and one of James Blake's best albums. For number 3 on the list, we have Yepa with Dawn. Shout out to Drake for making Look Out for Yepa. He featured her on his latest album, Certified Lover Boy, and she had a dedicated interlude, and I really liked her vocals on there, and she's given me even more with this debut album. This is a really strong record. Vocally, she's got this folk twang, but it also fits nicely into the soul category, and from front to back, this album just takes you on a ride. Yepa just glides over these tracks like a fucking bird flying over water, and throughout the whole album she just brings this immense energy to her vocal talent and just matching the energy of these instrumentals, especially on tracks like Stand and Boomerang. And I love the additions from A$AP Rocky and Smino on here. It gives it a nice hip hop edge to it, and they both give some really quality features. Instrumentally, this thing is lush and powerful at the same time. And even times where the energy isn't the highest, it's really doing its best to create these emotions here. On tracks like October Sky, where she details her mother's passing, it's almost tear-evoking hearing her vocals, her lyrics, over top of this really beautiful track. I think I would love to hear this album live just because of how great the production is on here. And I think this is really truly one of the best albums of 2021, R&B or not. So if you want an R&B album that's gonna give you a really great ride, a lot of diversity, and just some really great vocals and production here, look no further. Number 2 on the list, we have Snoh Aalegra with Temporary Highs in Violet Skies. Sometimes the best music isn't super deep. You don't have to get super analytical with it, and it doesn't have the most complex production. Sometimes the vibes are just all you need, and Snoh delivers that tenfold on this album. Temporary Highs in the Violet Skies is a great name for this album because I think it really fits every facet that you hear. It's bright, it's groovy, yet it's subtle and smooth. I think there's just a perfect balance of light and dark on this album. You got really groovy tracks produced by the Neptunes and Tyler the Creator, and then some of the most hard-hitting tracks on here, very murky sounding tracks from No ID and other great producers on here. And this is all laid with Snoh Aalegra's really great vocals, and I think her voice kind of just gives you like that classic R&B vibe. And I think she really just knocked it out the park on the production side of this thing. And even though I gave her last album a lot of play, this one is going to get even more just because of the replay value on a lot of these tracks, and I think some of these are even radio worthy. So I don't have much to say about this other than this is just really good, timeless music that you can play over and over and over and over again. And Snoh Aalegra really can't do no wrong at this point in her career, and I think it's just all up from here. And number 1 on my favorite R&B albums of 2021 is, you guys probably guessed it, you've been seeing it on a bunch of top albums of the year list, is Silk Sonic with An Evening with Silk Sonic. I know it seems like the obvious choice for number 1 here, given that it's probably the most popular R&B album of this year and one of the most popular albums of this year, period. But I think they deserve it. Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars really dove and honed in on the old school inspiration of this thing, giving you a really like 70s vibe throughout this whole album. Every song is just so detailed, and it seems like they rehearse these things over and over again because these are some really perfect sounding tracks. The production sounds expensive and grandiose, and the vocal duet between Bruno and Anderson .Paak are just like, they just mesh together like a glove. They're really like Scottie Pippen and Mike Jordan on this thing. Aside from the sheer star power on here, it's created a lot of hits and timeless music. Leave the Door Open, Smoking Out the Window, Skate. These are all just like classic songs that are going to be played at the cookouts. And really, I think this is just like the cookout album for the millennial generation, pretty much. And it just seems like they built up the hype enough and they met it. It's not that long. I think it's only like 9 tracks, but you really are getting the most out of every single track on here. I don't think that either party really stole the show on here. They both equally really did their thing, from the videos to the vocal performances. Everything about this album is just executed at the best possible form. Yeah, I think that Silk Sonic really deserves this here. So that has been my favorite R&B albums of 2021. I did really enjoy every single album on this list, and I hope you guys find something on here that you haven't heard of, or that you heard or maybe want to take a second chance on, because this is some really good music. I wouldn't be putting it on my list if it was some bullshit, okay? I'll make sure to link everything that I listed here in the description below, and while you're at that, go ahead and hit the like button, share this to a friend and talk about it, and type something in the comments too. Let me know what your favorite R&B albums were and how was my list. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Either way, I want to know. Next up, I have my favorite hip hop albums of 2021 coming up. And I did actually rank those, so that is gonna be probably more controversial video. But I really had fun making this one. I really enjoyed this year of music. Thank you guys for tuning in to every video that I put out. It has really been a great year for the Soul Tracks channel. So thank you guys for messing with the movement. This has been Soul Track, my favorite R&B albums of 2021. Soul Tracks out.